And sometimes people you love
It's coming for me through the trees.
sorry.
Help me, darling, help me, please.
Sometimes people you love get hurt on the way. I guess it's all part of the ride.
Well, no, I did not know that it's going to be as challenging as it was to film Losing Alice. I was even stupidly enough thinking that if I'm flying to Israel to film, I'll have weekends off so I can see friends and maybe travel to places, because Israel is so beautiful and you can have so much fun.
I read the script and I just didn't have a choice.
Our house of blood hunting me.
It was an act of survival for me.
Working with Steven Spielberg was, a real highlight in my life, in my professional life, because not only that he gave me an opportunity to work with him, to see how he works and to play a role in Munich.
Today we're joined by Israeli-American actress Ayelet Zurer, who would discuss her show Losing Alice, the experience of filming it, and if Hollywood movies have done complete justice to female friendships. Congratulations for the success of Losing Alice, which has you playing a deeply complex role. Did you even realize essaying the role of Alice would be extremely challenging before you even started filming it?
Well, no, I did not know that it's going to be as challenging as it was to film Losing Alice. I was even stupidly enough thinking that if I'm flying to Israel to film, I'll have weekends off so I can see friends and maybe travel to places, because Israel is so beautiful and you can have so much fun over the summer. And I mentioned that during rehearsals to Sigal, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you aware of how much work you actually have here?" And I said, "No, I think I'll be fine." And she said, "I don't think so." And she showed me the whole schedule, and I realized how much Alice has in almost in every, how much she's in almost every scene. And then I suddenly, it dawned on me that I looked at the story in a very objective way, at all the parts and pieces and all the characters and the storylines, but actually Alice is there all the time, and that it's actually a really subjective point of view that we're having. And then I sort of realized what I was going for. I guess there was maybe fear stopped me from getting that, but once I got into rehearsal, I realized, and it was very challenging, but it was very satisfying at the same time.
Right, right. Now, you've been dominating English-speaking screens ever since you landed a role in Steven Spielberg's Munich in 2005. How much has the film contributed to your career, and how important has the association with Steven been in garnering acceptance and attention of American audiences?
Working with Steven Spielberg was, a real highlight in my life, in my professional life, because not only that he gave me an opportunity to work with him, to see how he works and to play a role in Munich, he also opened the door for me to move from solely television and theater and films in Israel to the international world. And that gave me a lot of opportunities that I would have never dreamed of. I also had just a beautiful experience working on that film, and particularly working with him. And he was a really charming, smart, talented, humanly kind, inclusive director to work with, and I learned a lot from him.
We're sure you have a beautiful memory that you would like to share while shooting with Tom Hanks and Russell Crowe from the sets of Angels and Demons and Man of Steel, respectively.
I was extremely lucky in my career to work with amazing film directors and actors, but I think one day in particularly is one of my favorite, is the day that I tested for Angels and Demons and met Tom Hanks. I used to run lines walking on the beach because English was not my first language and I had to really practice it a lot. So I would take the earphones and walk on the beach and do the lines back and forth, back and forth. And on that day, I planned to walk the beach once, do the lines, come back, get dressed, put makeup on, and go to the test. But when I got to the end of the beach where there's a pier, I saw a baby seal, and that baby seal was like dying, or I should have, I knew I should have called someone for help, and it took me a few minutes to figure it out, and I asked for help, and eventually we had to wait 20 minutes until rescue came, and they rescued the little mini seal, and I almost didn't have any time left, so I ran back home, and I just did my lines running and getting dressed and putting the makeup on, and then I went to Santa Monica where we had that reading, and I remember walking in, and Tom was there, and he was so charming, and he was way taller than what I expected, and he immediately gave me a hug, and it was so warm and nice that I completely forgot the crazy day that I had before. And then they asked me about my day before we actually walked in, so I told them the story of the seal, and only later on, after reading with him and getting the part that I realized that when that happened and when I made that choice, I actually came in with a story for them so they could remember me. So this was a beautiful moment in time, and I remember on that day that I read with him, and I felt so lucky to be even there, just seeing how he works and how he deals with the material and how he deals with the other people around him. And then after that, the whole a bunch of months that we filmed with Ron Howard, who was again an amazing person, was really one of the highlights of my career, because to watch him act, but also how he handles himself as a human being, was a learning curve for me. It was really great.
So was there ever a moment when you took along the remnants of your character Alice in your real life?
Yes, I do. I relate to Alice very much because, first of all, she's my age, and she's a mother, and she's also a person who works in the field that I'm working in. But I think on a deeper level, what I really related to was her deep need to create, and also the sort of the tunnel vision that she's getting as she starts working on a project. Funny enough, I'm very much like that. At the beginning, this is a free flow, and then slowly I'm really tunnel visioned, and I can't see anything around me other than the role and what I need to achieve, and I kind of have that very specific idea, and I go for it. And it feels like a hunter. It feels like I'm going, with a spear or something like that, and nothing can interfere with me, and I can't hear anything else, and I can't see anything else. And I think that's sort of what happens to Alice during the process of from the beginning to the end. And I think it comes with a price as well. And I think that price in Alice's case is not my price, but I relate to it nevertheless.
Is it really tough as an actor to detach yourself while watching your on-screen performance?
It's a really interesting question. Can I detach myself from watching myself on a screen? It depends on the quality of the material. If it's not well done, it's really hard to detach, and you feel awful, and you feel shameful, and you feel like you didn't do it right and everything. And then it's very hard for me to watch myself. But when a project is really lifting off and is separated from the experience because it moved, because there are levels. At first you read the thing, and then you work on it and rehearse it, and then you film it, and then you look at the end project. And if that thing elevated from all the rest of the experiences, then it's really easy and satisfying to watch. And if it's not, then it's an awful, awful feeling. So I guess in Alice's case, I was really excited and happy because what Sigal has done during her editing period, she even elevated the show even more than the experience that I had through reading, rehearsal, and then filming. So it was good.
Would it be wrong to call Losing Alice an erotic show?
Would it be wrong to call Losing Alice an erotic show? Yes, I think it hits partially what it is. I understand why a lot of magazines or Apple TV chose to use this language, because it definitely is a component of the show. But I think it's also a drama. I think it's a story about women. I think it's a story about creators. I think it's a story about creation and destruction, and many, 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 many other layers. So, and those layers cannot put into one liner. And I think it's the one liner that maybe attracts people, but not necessarily represents the show as a whole.
Did you draw any real life references while essaying your role as Alice?
I think as an actor, you always draw from your own life, whether you are aware of it or not, and it's kind of part of the process. I drew from the experience walking into the room the first time and reading with Leahy. I drew from Sigal and what I saw her going through as a director, as a film director, as a female film director, and some of the notion around her from males working underneath her. And I drew from the experience of the fear that you are never going to do something as great as what you've done before, or you're never going to work again. As actors, it happens a lot when there's lulls between jobs, especially between the good jobs. Sometimes it takes maybe even years between really substantial work. And so in between those, there's this sensation of, is that it? Is that all? And it comes up with with fear, or with sort of a suffocation. And I think I understood that and brought that in, and many, many little things that I wanted to have in, because I thought that even though it was a genre piece, I love to add to that layer of naturalism, that how we actually look in real life. In the first few episodes before Alice is in her power, she's she and me not wearing makeup. I wore mostly Sigal's, the writer director's t-shirts. Sometimes with glasses and no contact lenses. This was, and no hair done nicely. It was very natural, and we really wanted to have that in. And also just how it is in partnership, how it is to be married, how it is to be married to someone successful, how it is the power moving between a wife and a husband, and the relationship with their parents. All that was somehow connected to how I perceive things, or perceive it either in my life or people I know life. Because as an actor, you're a little thief. You steal moments from everything you see, and then you use it somehow.
Now, Losing Alice is about female friendship. We wanted to understand if there's ever been any Hollywood film which, according to you, has done complete justice to female friendship. Is there any film that beautifully delved deeper into different aspects of the bond?
I don't remember many films about women's bond. And if I do, like, let's say, Thelma and Louise, or The Witches of Eastwich, in both cases, the end is not great. And perhaps not in our case as well. So I guess there's maybe still a way to go in portraying those relationships between women. But I guess it's not just the friendship. Also, in our case, it's also the competition. that we are dealing in, or maybe not even competition, just the need to be as good as the other person is. And this is something new that I think Sigal was investigating, how we become hungry enough to be willing to go further than maybe is good for us, or the consequences are good for us.
Would it be correct to say that usually female characters aren't the dominant characters in Israeli genre TV shows? And Losing Alice has been successful in breaking the mold and playing an instrumental role in putting female characters front and center.
Actually, I have an interesting answer about this, because the more I think about it, Israel does have shows that are a lot about men, but when they do have shows or movies about women, the creators are able to do something very unique and special and not so stereotypical. Because I'm thinking about my role, let's say, in treatment and how it's been written, it was very true, and there were many dimensions to the characters, and she was very deep, and the writing was, a female writer, novelist wrote that specific characters. And if I'm thinking further down the line of things that I've done, like Hostages, that I think was sold actually to India. This was a leading role for a female that was written for a male, but then shifted to become a female. And I think that did something very interesting for the character and something unique that we haven't seen before. And this now is even one step even further. I think Sigal, Avin, the writer and the director, is really playing with the audience's concept of what is womanhood and what women should do or shouldn't do. And I think what's beautiful about the show, that you think as an audience that you have an idea of who this woman is, but then you change your mind, and that happens all the time.